everybody. So we are the Hallmarkies podcast, and we are very excited today to be getting our detective caps on and talking mysteries. And I'm Rachel, and Amber's here.
Hello, everybody.
And our friend Ruth Hill is here. Yay!
Hello. Yay. Nice to be back.
Yeah, we missed you. It's only been like 2 weeks since you were last on.
Right.
I mean, Ruth has been on, I think, maybe more than I have in the past couple weeks.
but we miss you nonetheless. Thanks so much for coming. We're actually here. We're going to talk about the Hailey Dean Mysteries. There's a 3-movie arc that just finished this last week, and it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. This is our first real, aside from our Postables episode, and I guess Darrow and Darrow. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I look at those differently than these other mystery kind of shows. But anyway, this was one of our first mystery podcasts that we've done, and so let's talk about it. So, Ruth, can you tell us what something about sort of the history of this series with Kelly Martin?
Well, I'm not an authority. I mean, like a real authority on them, other than I've been watching them from the beginning. I remember that I remember when Kelly Martin first tweeted out that she was going to be in some new series, because we'd all been waiting for maybe more of the mystery woman, because it's like that's all they would ever show. Is there going to be anything else? And all of a sudden she's tweeting something out, and I'm thinking, I think that initially my mom was even a little bit concerned. It's so funny because it's Nancy Grace. Oh boy, Nancy Grace, because Nancy Grace might be a little bit too much for Hallmark. I think that I think there could have been that concern initially, and I hadn't followed everything all that much, but I think that what's interesting about this series is it's actually based on some of Nancy Grace's own experience. I think that's the interesting thing when you look it up. And I've not read the Hailey Dean mystery books, so I have no idea how the books and the movie compares. That I haven't done, but I have looked it up to see where this all came from, and to read about Nancy Grace's fiance being killed. I mean, it's just it's a really sad thing, and yet she took that and wrote a whole series about it, and now it's on Hallmark, and the actors. I mean, Kelly Martin, I'm a huge fan. I've been a huge fan since she was in Life Goes On.
The face on the milk carton.
Well, no, Life Goes On was actually when I started watching her.
I started watching her with Christy. That was my first introduction. The show that left me on the cliffhanger.
Right.
Right. I'm so mad. Yeah. So let's just clarify for our listeners who might not be aware. So this series is based on a series of novels that were written by Nancy Grace, the journalist, I guess you call her. This started in 2016 with a movie called Murder with Love. And I feel like, and so Amber, can you tell us a little bit about Hailey Dean's character?
So Hailey Dean, when we first meet Hailey in Murder with Love, she's already a therapist. She's given up being in the DA's office. But we do first meet her in a setting with a bunch of these, cops and ADAs, because she's at a retirement party for some other guy, and she tells like a funny courtroom story. So they already established, I think it's interesting, they establish her first in that sort of world before establishing her as a therapist. So it's pretty interesting to see that, and to see, that she decided to change careers in the coming from watching not the first one first, I was like kind of like, well, why did she change careers? And I feel like it's a little flimsy her excuse. Like one day she was just like, I can't take this anymore.
Yeah.
But like, but you still basically investigate crimes now anyway, so you might not have hated it as much as you claim.
Because don't you have to go to medical school to be a psychiatrist?
Yeah, she had to go back and do all of her schooling, like new schooling, everything. So.
Yeah.
I don't
it's completely different. but yeah, there you go. I'm sure there have been people who've done that in the past, but so I have full disclosure, I have not seen these first 3 movies. And
so we are not going to spoil who the murderers are.
Right.
Because that's 95% of the fun is trying to figure out who the murderer is.
Right.
Fair enough. So what do you think about, I guess, this Murder with Love? How did it start off the series on a good front?
For me, it really did. Of course, I came into the series already having I interviewed before it even aired. I already interviewed 2 people who were connected with the series because Cindy Busby has a good guest star spot in this first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I interviewed her before that aired, and that was kind of cool to see that. Very different role for Cindy Busby, but definitely a major part. Her guest star spot, without spoiling anything, her guest star spot is a major part of it's not like she's just some little character thrown here and there. It is major. And then I interviewed Viv Leacock, who plays Fincher. And what was really great is I knew then going into this that he and Kelly Martin, and you see this developed very much, but they connected first over Lethal Weapon. They both are huge fans of the Lethal Weapon movie series. And so they have kind of taken on the personas of those characters when they first started getting into character and having to make it even from that first movie. Kelly Martin played her role more like Riggs and kind of like the crazy, kind of like the kind of pushing boundaries. And then Viv Leacock, he played his role more like
Murtaugh.
Is it Murtaugh? Yeah, Murtaugh. And so kind of the one trying to make sure, we fall, kind of keep her level-headed and all that. And it was great to know that story coming in, because then when I'm watching it, I can really see that chemistry happening. And so I had that coming into it. And for me, I felt that it was a solid beginning. Granted, I think it's always hard when you have the first movie in any series, establishing the characters and trying to get the chemistry down. And then when I found out that Matthew McCall was playing Jonas, the coroner who becomes her love interest, I had interviewed him and I just love him. So it was just all these people that I already knew coming into it. And so for me, I thought it was a solid beginning.
Mm-hmm. So the cast has remained pretty consistent, it sounds like.
Yes.
Aside from most of the guest stars.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool.
It looked like the therapist that she shares her office with changed.
Yes, that is correct. In fact, I'm going to be interviewing the lady who originally played the therapist. Yeah. And so, yeah, I know that.
And
happened.
I'm not sure if in the show it's like, oh, it's the same lady.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, oh, just a new therapist, because they don't look at all the same.
Right. Right.
So there was Deadliest State from last April. And what do you think of this one, Amber?
Yeah, so Deadliest State, it's kind of, I feel like the most tropey of all of the Hailey Dean ones, in my opinion. But, it was, I think it was my least favorite of all of them. But still, Viv Leacock is so outstanding in all of these movies. He's, for real, he's just so good. Yeah. So it's really nice to see him. It's super funny in these early movies to see Nancy Grace as this other attorney. She plays an attorney in this show, and then in the later one, she's just like Nancy Grace.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like, what is happening with the continuity in this show?
Well, now I do know the answer to that has to do with her schedule. It was a scheduling issue because Nancy Grace also had a show. She had a new show. I can't remember. I want to say that it's A&E Network, but there's a show where she and another attorney are going around about unsolved murders. Mm-hmm. And so when I heard when Viv told me that in these last three that just aired that she was just going to be playing Nancy Grace, it was all scheduled. It was a scheduling issue. She still wanted to be a part of it, but she was so busy with filming her other show and just everything else.
So it's fun the way that she sort of pops in and she's like she always knows like the scoop like immediately.
I love that so much about the later movies. I much prefer her as like Nancy Grace as Nancy Grace as opposed to like Nancy Grace's random other attorney.
Right.
It's way better, and I just love it. And she's so Nancy Grace in the even a heightened Nancy Grace, which is crazy because Nancy Grace is just like always up here. So I loved it.
Yeah.
I love those. Anyway, and the Dating is Murder movie, we did talk about in our top 10s.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't like movies about people who are just trying to find love and get murdered.
Yeah. But you really enjoyed this one, Ruth?
Yes, I really enjoyed Dating is Murder. I really enjoyed that one because I felt, I enjoyed it for what it was, but also I felt like it was really edgy. I mean, as far as Hallmark mysteries, lots of times they don't deal with, lots of times when you watch Hallmark mysteries, they are rather unrealistic. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that even as a negative thing. I mean, they're supposed to be enjoyable. They're supposed to be like you're not going to be getting scared. But I remember watching Dating is Murder, and it's like I felt like I was really on the edge of my seat, like what's really going to happen. I mean, I knew ultimately Hailey Dean would be fine. I mean, I knew that because that's the series is about her. But it was just the suspense for me and the fact that it was rather realistic. You realize that these kind of things actually do happen. It made it a little bit edgier for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Well, maybe I'll have to check that out one of these days. So, all right, let's dive in. So this next part, we're going to be talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen these three most recent ones, then stop and then come back and listen to us after. So we're definitely going to be talking spoilers. And I have a major bone to pick with Hallmark because in my opinion, they gave a huge spoiler in the preview show that they did. I watched it and I was like, okay, Chad Lowe's going to be the bad guy. It's obvious. Like they showed this long thing of him being like interrogated. And I don't know, it was just, to me, it was
Rachel, but that was from the first movie.
I know, but the way they did it, it was obvious to me. I was just like, oh, why did you do that? And so I don't know. Maybe it was my own fault for watching the preview show, but I just thought
the preview show led you to believe that he was going to be the murderer in the first movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
To be fair, any person who, pays attention to casting and knows how television works knows that obviously the marquee name that's only guest starring for this 3-series arc is going to be the murderer. People don't get out of bed to be just the grieving best friend unless they're going to be a series regular.
But if you're saying the fun thing is trying to figure out who the murderer is, if I already know going into it, then it's boring.
Sometimes, Rachel, you have to prove it.
Yeah, exactly. There's that. And I think that, I was actually talking, since I knew that Rachel had brought this up. I was reading all the stuff, and I thought, okay, I'm going to see what my mom had. Because I was like, oh, you know, and I understood. I honestly do understand what you're saying, but I also think we have to understand where these mystery series, what tradition these mystery series are coming out of.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming out of things like the old mystery series, such as Murder, She Wrote,
Mm-hmm.
such as Columbo. These both of those that I mentioned, with Columbo, you always knew, you saw the murder happen, and it was always the top guest star who was the murderer. It was always some big name that would come on, and you saw the entire murder. And every time Columbo walked into the crime scene, he knew. But the problem was he had to prove it.
I just think they could have sold it as the two of them are just like friends and like getting back together, and that he's going to be some kind of helpful person or whatever. I think like they could have sold it better. And I don't know, like I was frustrated by that. That was annoying. But anyway, let's move on. Okay. So the first one is Hailey Dean, 2 + 2 = murder. And so this little summary is: Hailey attends her niece's school recital only to learn that beloved music teacher has vanished. Hailey soon discovers several startling secrets amongst the staff, as well as a link between the missing young teacher and the school's reconstruction funds. Mm-hmm. And I personally thought this one was the best by far of the three. Personally, I thought that the principal was a little bit harder to figure out than some of the other ones, in my opinion. I still kind of suspected him, but I thought they did a pretty good job with the red herrings in it. And I thought that the emotion of the father of the teacher, I thought that actor did a good job, and it felt genuine. And I really kind of for a second believed he might do something that he'd regret, and it was believable, I thought. And I don't know, I just thought this one was the best, in my opinion. What do you think, Amber?
Well, this one was believable for me because typically the person I love the most is the murderer. And Carrie Feehan was a suspect, and I love him so much. So I was like, well, obviously he's the murderer. And then it didn't happen because he got murdered. Oh. But I was like, that one, it had me a little bit convinced because, you know, that's just how TV works for me. Mm-hmm. The person I love most is a murderer.
Right. So watch
Good job on casting, Hallmark. Way to go.
Watch out, characters.
No, I liked this one. I felt so bad for the dad of Hannah Peterson's character in this movie, whatever Mr. Sachs's name was. He did a really good job of being super sad at the end.
Yeah, he did.
I felt so bad for him.
Definitely.
Agreed. Yeah, and it had all the elements that work in the three movies, as far as the banter between Kelly Martin and Viv Leacock about the food truck.
Oh, the food truck was so funny. Oh, the invisible missing food truck was the best part of the movie, though, for sure.
It was pretty funny. Mo Basato plays Danny, the police chief.
Yes.
And what do you think about him? He grew up with, or went to college or something with Will. He knew Will, right?
He's Will's brother.
Will's brother. Okay, that's right. That's right. Yep. And what do you think about him and Hailey as sort of a team?
Well, I think that he brings the he's learned to trust her instincts. He definitely trusts her instincts, but then he always has to bring her back and say, okay, but we have to follow the law. Okay, we have to, it's like we have to do it this way. We can't do it that way. And I think that he always has that concern that is something going to happen to her. You know, his brother's dead, so now he certainly, I think in some ways he feels like he wants to be her protector in many ways. He wants to come along and be the one that makes sure she's okay, and so I like the fact that there's I would say that they are probably in many ways polar opposites, which I think works very well with the relationship, because Danny is just the calm, basically level-headed guy, following the rules, following procedure, and then you've got Hailey, who's just all over the place, and so I think they balance each other out well.
What do you think, Amber?
Yeah, I really like all of the main characters in this show. I don't feel like any one of them is super irritating.
Right.
I feel like, and for me, one of the biggest things is like I have to feel like there's actually a reason or a point for them to be doing stupid investigative work when it's not their job.
Right.
Like, let the police do it.
Right.
And what I really appreciated in this is that she's always with the police when she's doing things. It's not like she's like, well, I'll solve it first, and then
that's true.
Then yay for me.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, we'll just solve it together. Let's fight crime. Like, so I appreciate that a lot about the show, and I like that. Like, her main thing that she does with the police is she's like, like a consultant who reviews like interview footage. So I mean, there are people who do that. That's like a real job. So I approve of this like, it's good for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, like, she is, I mean, I don't know if she's still technically a lawyer, if she still has her license or whatever it is. But like,
I can't imagine that she would just like let it expire.
Yeah. It's more believable than like a baker.
Like, just a nosy baker.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we did have our friend Hannah Peterson in this episode. Poor Hannah gets she's the school teacher that gets.
I didn't see her much. I know.
No, but she did a good job with what she had to do. And we have an interview with her. If you haven't listened to it, you should check it out. So this one, the principal ended up being the murderer because he was like an illegal gambling guy, and that was kind of surprising a little bit, I thought. I don't know. I just thought this one was the best. Okay. And so it still was a little boring for me, just because, I don't know, this is just not my thing.
There's just not enough kissing for Rachel.
Not enough kissing and way too much exposition, and I'm just not. It's just not my thing. I just don't like these kind of shows. So I have this one though in my ranking at number 20, and
for the year
of the year out of 32.
Okay.
I have it just after August Creek and just before Marrying Mr. Darcy. Spoiler alert to our Two Brides coverage.
Yeah.
So there we go. Amber, how many crowns did you give this first one?
I'm actually going to give this first one 4 crowns. I really liked it. The Viv Leacock stuff was really fun for me. Yeah. So, I mean, it really pushed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I give it a 4 also. So
good. Okay, great. Okay, so then the next one was The Marriage Made for Murder. And this one is Hailey works with her detective friends Danny, Fincher, and Garland when an art dealer, Victor, is found murdered. As they begin to investigate, Hailey and Clyde, an old college friend, come across a man yelling at an art dealer's wife, Christy, about loss of money because of Victor. So it's all this madness with this art dealer. And so this one basically, like, Christy this art dealer has had 2 husbands that have passed away. And they just start out researching this one case, and then they end up researching her previous husband, goes back and forth, and basically turns out that the murderer is the bitter ex-sister-in-law from the first husband. And she was really upset, and she ended up wanted to take revenge out on Christy. And I don't know, this had some fun moments. The brick through the thing, through the window was fun. There's some tension there. I thought that the girl, just the murderer, was also had the stroke, or not the stroke, the tumor in One Calls the Heart.
Yeah, and she's Jack Wagner's daughter in the Wedding March movies. Sarah Gray.
Yeah. She was pretty good, I thought.
Oh my gosh. When she has the turn in the psychiatrist chair and she's like, oops, I'm crazy. Like, I loved that.
Yes.
It made me so happy because just like that, terrible snap. Just like that, we were watching like a crazy Lifetime movie.
Yes.
And the funny thing about this, I was thinking about this, is like, if this were a Lifetime movie, we would not be watching this movie from the perspective of the like investigators.
Right.
If this were a Lifetime movie, we would just be watching it from the perspective of the like lady who was what's her name? The wife whose husband keeps dying.
Yeah.
It would just be her, and it would be like the Black Widow or something.
Yes.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't wait to watch that Lifetime movie.
Oh, I'm sure. Just wait. It'll be coming, I'm sure. There's no doubt.
But how funny would it be if like Hallmark decided to tap into that Lifetime movie like area and they just literally made this movie but from a different perspective. Like they just like had more scenes for the wife and Sarah Gray and like them interacting like at their houses and stuff, and Carlo Marx would be like the surprise secret love interest.
Right. This one, I don't think I figured it out until the lady was, sitting there and having the turn. I didn't see that one coming, if I remember right.
Because at first they make it seem like it's Christy, like she's arrested.
Right, yes.
And yes.
And the minute they arrest her, you go, that's not her, huh?
Yeah, right.
I did go for that. And I'll be honest, what we also do, what my mom and I both do when we watch these, is we look at the time and we decide, okay, is it really going to be this person? No, it's too early. And that's what we do.
Well, my favorite ones are the ones where you think it's someone, but they think it's that person, and then they rule them out.
Yes.
And then they circle back, because those are real tricky.
Yes.
This one I did not have figured out, which is very rare for me. Like, way to go. Because I was trying to figure out, like, what is the point of having Sarah Gray in this movie? And then I justified it to myself, like, oh, she's being built up as a way to introduce Hailey's, like, growth. So that they can have the, like, oh, I'm ready to find Will's killer in the second movie.
Right.
So I was like, okay, if she's just there for that, then that's fine. I didn't realize that she was her neighbor. Right. Like, did they tell us that before? Because I don't remember hearing that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I forgot. I can't remember.
Because to be fair, if they don't tell us that she's the neighbor of the lady whose husband's dead, then that's them just cheating, like, frankly. So I'm going to have to rewatch it and see if they actually disclose that information. Because if they did, then bad on me. I should have known that the, like, random lady who happens to be her neighbor, guilty.
Yeah.
But also in this one, Carlo Marx, I was very worried about him being the murderer because I love him so much.
I think I was, that is correct, because I was right with you thinking, oh my goodness, he doesn't usually play a part like this. Is he the murderer? I was starting to wonder. I think I suspected him mainly because I realized, oh, I know who that is.
Well, and then he was gone and, like, missing for 40 minutes in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he got murdered also. And then, no, he was alive. So I was like, oh, he's guilty. Nope.
Right.
No, he wasn't.
Okay.
He was just fine.
Right.
It was very strange for me.
Okay,
Rachel.
the really fun thing about this one also was Fincher gets a love interest introduced. I just interviewed the woman who plays his love interest, Alvina August, who we'll be seeing in a future Hallmark movie. If you read the interview, you'll see that. She's actually filmed another Hallmark movie. I think she's becoming a new Hallmark favorite. But regardless, this was her first Hallmark thing. Okay. And the whole speed dating thing with Fincher, and then the way fun. Fincher's not telling Hailey what he's doing, and he's just it's so cute to see the way that he's hiding the fact that he really wants to get out and date and doesn't want Hailey to know about it, but then he really does want her to know about it because he's not going to be able to find any kind of lasting relationship without Hailey to give him some advice. We know that. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was fun. I enjoyed her, and especially in the next one. Like, you don't really see her hardly at all, but
right.
It was still funny.
Yeah.
The presence of her.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised that they used Clyde so little in this one? Because to me, that was also sort of a tell of like, of course he's going to be the murderer of Will, because why would you have, it was just obvious. I don't know. I felt like if they had used it and really built up that friendship, it would have been more of a surprise and it would have been more effective. He was hardly in this movie at all.
He was super weird in this movie. I'm not going to lie. Like, he just kind of was like super needy.
Yeah. What do you guys think? We haven't talked about Jonas yet. What do you think about Jonas?
Well, I feel like Jonas is the handsomest, nicest, most perfect person on earth.
Yes, absolutely.
Who's the most understanding and hilarious also. Like,
yes.
Get out of here with your perfection. Find a flaw.
Well, having talked with Matthew McCall, I'd say that now I don't know if he's nearly as patient as Jonas is, because he and I had that discussion about how Jonas is so incredibly patient, and we both love that about him. But basically, who you see on screen, that's who Matthew McCall is, very much. The same, he's just this really nice, handsome, sweet guy, and very intelligent, incredibly intelligent, very smart. And
handsome.
Yeah, he's fun, and they have pretty good chemistry, I feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, all right, well, let's talk about the last one. So, Will to Kill. It's emotionally ready to confront her fiance's 15-year-old murder. Hailey finds herself caught up in the case of a missing college co-ed. The deeper Hailey digs into the young woman's disappearance, the more she is convinced the two events are related. And for me, this one was the weakest of the three. I thought that it was really boring. I thought it was just exposition the whole time, and I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I don't know, I just didn't really like it. I thought it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. And so I don't know. Amber, what do you think?
Well, I really liked the mystery. Like, it was fun finding out about the girl who was missing. That was kind of fun for me. Like you, I mean, obviously by the end of the, I don't know, first movie, after he wasn't the murderer and you knew that he was only going to be on for this 3-story arc, you're like, oh, of course it's going to be Chad Lowe because of television. But like, I don't mind knowing who the murderer is, because most of the time you know who the murderer is regardless of whatever, how they set it up.
Right.
The only thing that I had a problem with was I felt like the motive and all that stuff was very flimsy.
Yeah.
I like my motives to be more grounded in like human emotion than just in
greed,
like random murdering. Like, it for me would have been way more interesting if he was like secretly obsessed with Will and like single white female Will, you know?
Why don't you explain what the motivation was?
Well, his motive was like, oh, I'm just gonna bribe the school, and then this girl found out, and then she was like, oh, Hailey knows. He was like, okay, we gotta get rid of Hailey too. It's absurd.
So there was this family construction company that was doing work on this school, and they had gotten this illegal bid, and this reporter girl named Emma was going to rat them out, but then they got rid of her, and but then Hailey knew, and so then they were after her, ended up killing Will instead. The whole thing. So yeah, it was kind of, I agree with you. It was kind of flimsy, Ruth.
Well, I disagree with both of you, but that's okay. That's
do it.
Expected.
So this is your favorite
for us.
Actually, it is, and is my mom's favorite as well.
Okay.
My mom actually stayed awake. She's not been staying awake, not during the Nancy. She's been staying awake during the Hailey Dean ones, but she's been falling asleep quite regularly during Hallmark movies. So. Because she just had a lot going on and she's felt bad, but then it's like, okay. But anyway, this one, she stayed awake. She was very into it. The reason that this one for me, I mean, first of all, I felt that they did have a lot of red herrings. I mean, I was one of the people that, yes, I was thinking, it's got to be Clyde. It's got to be Clyde. But then I also know from the mystery experience that sometimes they'll do that. They'll say, okay, it's this person, and it has to be this person. And then they throw in all these other things. And by the time you get to the end, it's somebody completely different because there's all the things that you didn't know about. And so sometimes it's hard when it's the obvious person because you don't know for sure. And as far as motivation and the ending there, that one really got to me, personally speaking, because I felt as though I was seeing my ex-husband. That was very much, I could have seen my ex-husband being exactly like that, because my ex-husband is very, has schizophrenia, and he has his moments of everybody thinking that he is this really, really nice guy and very high functioning.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have those moments where nothing you do makes sense, and it makes sense to the person but to nobody else. So what you guys were saying about the motivation seeming flimsy, I actually see that and I understand that. But if I'm going to go with the idea that Clyde was mentally unstable and very sick, that could be why the motivation was so flimsy. Yeah, I'm sure it was more of a personal connection.
And what was his motivation for getting back in touch with Hailey at all? Like he could have definitely gotten away with this for a long time.
And she asked him that. Well, and it was
his ego.
Yeah, it all goes back to ego. He wanted her to see, you have to be proud of, like, look at what I've done. I mean, that's how sick he was.
Yeah. Look
at what I've done. I was able to do all this, and I hid it from you, and I didn't have to do it. And I will say, having Hailey Dean pull a gun out and shoot him, that was very edgy Hallmark. Now, people might not, but that kind of thing doesn't. When Hailey Dean got the gun out in that one, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is because usually they don't kill that the person who did it. They just drag them off to jail. Yeah. In this case, and because she kills him, and then Danny comes along and finishes him off. I mean, it was.
Yeah, that was a pretty kick butt moment. I was surprised they did that. Did that surprise you, Amber?
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like they do. Maybe I'm desensitized, but I feel like a lot of times in these shows, the good guy will end up killing the bad guy, right?
Yes.
But and even on Hallmark, I think we've seen them do that. But I don't feel like, I don't know. I felt like Hailey was like a little bit like Hailey shot first. And mostly it's like, oh, boom, they just missed me. And so now I'm justified in shooting them or something.
Yeah.
Like the way it played out with Danny. And it didn't really feel that way. It was just like Hailey kind of just pulled the trigger. I'm not saying that I minded it, but it seemed a little bit like, oh, Snoop.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised because I'm not as familiar with this genre as you guys are. Yeah. I was surprised that she shot him, and she's pretty, I mean, way to go for the perfect non-kill shot. Disable, but not kills. It was very good. Right. Yeah. So I forgot to ask Amber, how many crowns did you give the second one?
Oh, I gave the second one 4.1 crowns.
Okay.
I mean, it tricked me for a long time.
Cool.
Now, if it was a cheap trick, when I go back and they didn't actually tell us that she was neighbors with that lady or something, then I'm out. Okay. Then it gets deducted.
Ah, okay.
A full half crown.
Oh. So I have this at 23 in my ranking. I have it just below the Fixer Upper Mystery, Deadly Deed, and just above the Storyteller. So there you go. And so what do you give this third one, Amber?
This third one, I gave it 3 3/4 crowns.
Okay.
And just because, like, I understand that people do these kinds of murders and are sometimes a little bit not all there and the worst and scary. But I felt like from a narrative standpoint, as a big conclusion, I wanted something more for the motivation.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. So I have this at 26 in my ranking. I have it just below Love Once and Always and just above The Wedding March 3. So there you go. That's my rankings. I basically would give the first one 2.5 crowns. And then the other 2 crowns for me. Ruth, how would you rank the 3? Which, as far as your favorites?
So it would go. The third one would be my favorite. Then it would be. So I'd probably give this third one 5 crowns, and then I would probably give the second one 4.5, and the first one of the 3 4. It's probably the way I'd rank them.
The first one you'd give 4?
Yeah, well, of the three that we just
right,
did.
Right.
The trilogy, cool. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Well, let us know, you guys listening. Let us know what you think of them and how you would rank them. What did you think of the performances and the story arc and all that fun stuff? Do you like this, Ruth, of them doing this long, extended sort of story arc, or do you like better the individual episodes kind of thing?
I actually do prefer the story arc. Actually, that's something that Matthew McCall and I actually talked about in our interview is that most of the Hallmark mystery movies just have here's the one murder mystery, we're solving it, and then it's done. And then the next time it's a different person. Not that there isn't other story. I know there's always other storylines going on and all that. I personally liked having this one that lasted over several episodes. I thought that made it more interesting. That's just my opinion. Who knows? I mean, I know some people probably would disagree, but my mom and I both agree on this. My mom and I both agree that the Hailey Dean Mysteries are our favorites of the mystery films, and so that's what I say. And I realize that that's open to interpretation, and it could change. Depending on whatever other mysteries. I know there's other mystery series in the works, but that's just what we're saying now.
Cool. Amber, what about you? Did you like having this arc?
Yeah. And when they did the royal court survey thing a few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, where they're like, would you prefer watching, a show once every 4 months, or would you prefer having a month-long thing? I was like, give it to me in a month, bro.
That's right.
That's what I voted for, and I feel like they're going towards that, and I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
It also, and truth be told, I did choose it because I felt like it made podcasting easier because we could lump them all together.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Right, well, great. So let us know what you guys thought of these Hailey Dean mysteries. Let us know on Twitter or in the comments section. We'd love to hear and talk with you guys about them. And make sure you're following this weekend on Hallmark Channel. We have our favorite, The Wedding March 4, is coming out. And there's no mystery this weekend, correct?
That's correct.
Right. We just have Good Witch on Sunday, right?
The only mystery is, why are they not even talking about Jack Wagner and Josie Bassett in any of the Wedding March trailers?
That's so true. Yeah. None. Like, it's all Andrew Walker, Mary.
Well, let's see. Maybe because Hallmark knows how much everybody loves Andrew Walker. I mean, he's only like, the best. Oh.
Amber, you disappointed me. I thought you were going to say the greatest mystery is why there's a March 4.
The reason why there is, and it's so funny, in all of the press stuff for Wedding March now, it's like Josie Bassett and Jack Wagner are like back here, and then it's just like Merritt Patterson and Andrew Walker in the front, in the foreground. It's so funny to me.
That is hilarious.
I want to say I am very excited also in Wedding March 4 that Emily Tennant's going to be back after being missing.
Yes, I love that woman. Yes. She is amazing.
She's really cute. Yeah. So, all right. Well, so there's lots of good stuff coming up. We have our Good Witch recap, and there'll be Good Witch this weekend on, we're winding down almost to the end of the season. That's very exciting. And so a lot of good stuff coming up on the podcast and good stuff coming up on Hallmark Channel. So there you go. And so again, let us know what you think. And thanks so much. And Ruth, where can people find you?
You can find me on my blog, mydevotionalthoughts.net. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Ruth Hill 74. Also, Facebook. I have a Facebook page, My Devotional Thoughts.
And Amber, how can people find you?
As always, I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
Yeah, and you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube, so please check that out. I would really appreciate it. And you can make sure you're following us at Hallmarkies Pod on all the different services for listening to podcasts, and give us your ratings and your reviews. We really appreciate that on iTunes. And make sure you're following us on social media at Hallmarkies Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And we try to post every single day. So it's a lot of fun. And we will talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.